Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 8 of Jordan and Drew's Summer Sports Spectacular. Did you just flash up 9 fingers right there?
I flashed up 8. I can count.
Are you sure? I don't know. I guess it was 4 and 4. I thought it was a 5 and 4, but that's all right. We are at episode 8, meaning there's just 2 more episodes remaining next week. Alabama and Miami. I believe it's the 1992 College Football Championship game, and the week after, Indiana's epic 1976 men's basketball season. We'll talk all about it coming up on the 10th and final episode. Full disclosure, we might have to push episode 10 back because, as you all know, I'm going to Nashville coming up next weekend, and episode 10 would be on August 4th, but we'll figure it out. I'm just saying it's just a thought right now. So for those of you who want the Indiana basketball one, stay tuned. We'll get it up and we will figure it out. It'll all be bread and butter, good as they say. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, but I know that my name is Jordon Lawrenz, and I am joined alongside the one and only Drew Skyberg. Drew, we know you're such a big old school football fan. 1968, 1969 season. Oh boy.
Oh yeah, of course I am, Jordan. This was quite the game and quite the season in general for football. And I don't know, Jordan. Some of us old football, I'm not gonna say it's boring, but it's certainly very different.
You can tell that this is a completely different approach than what we see nowadays. I mean, you're seeing guys throw 60 passes sometimes, and there's not even close to 60 combined in this game, but it's totally different times. Like we said, I think we did Super Bowl 7 and we called it like a high school game. I mean, this is more or less the same. It's basically how it goes. It's just totally different offense, different strategies on offense and defense. Things are totally different back in the day. So before we get going, it is important to note this is going to be our most unique summer sports spectacular to date because Drew will be covering the American Football League and I will be covering the National Football League. So they were still split as this time. It wasn't just the NFL with an AFC and an NFC. No. There was an NFL and there was an AFL, and they were two completely different things. So I'm just going to read these to start real quick. The NFL had 2 conferences, NFL much bigger than the AFL. I'm not entirely sure why that is, but much, much bigger. The NFL in the Eastern Conference had the NFL Capital and the NFL Century divisions. Then in the Western Conference, they had the NFL Coastal and the NFL Central divisions. And Drew, your AFL, only 2 divisions.
Yeah, we have the AFL Eastern Division and the AFL Western Division. So we're seeing a lot smaller thing. We only got 10 teams in the AFL, which is a lot smaller. And yeah, it's there's some all these teams that still exist. I mean, except like the Oilers and like the but they're called the Boston Patriots, but that's the AFL.
Yeah, that's 2 Eastern and Western division for that. NFL had Eastern and Western Conference with 2 different divisions within them. So talking about them here, staying with the NFL, there were some coaching changes, and I just want to talk about the big one. Green Bay Packers, Vince Lombardi stepped down as head coach less than 1 month after winning Super Bowl II. He was replaced by his longtime assistant, Phil Benston. So, I mean, crazy, crazy stuff. Vince Lombardi stepping down really had to shake everything up in the NFL, and we'll talk about how the Packers did in this season. And spoiler alert, certainly didn't live up to the hype of seasons 1 and 2 with the Super Bowl victories. And the only other big coaching change was during the season, actually. Norb Hecker from the Falcons was fired after just 3 games. He was replaced by Norm Van Brocklin. Why are you firing a coach 3 games into the year? What the heck?
Yeah, that's certainly interesting, Jordan. And to touch on Vince Lombardi, we actually saw him in attendance of Super Bowl III. They showed him during the broadcast, I noticed. So that was cool to see. And then for the AFL, we had some coaching changes as well. We had 1 off season and 1 in season. So the Cincinnati Bengals, Paul Brown was the expansion team's first head coach. And then in the season, Joe Collier was fired after 2 games. And his replacement, defensive coordinator Harvey Johnson, served as the interim head coach that season.
It's just crazy. 2 games being fired for the Bills. Bills finished 1-12. Drew will talk about it, but I'm looking right now. The first 2 games of the year, they lost 16-7 to Boston. Not too bad, right? Then they lost 48-6 to the Raiders. So they lost the first 2, both of which at home. As for the Falcons, they didn't even lose, besides the first week, they didn't even lose that bad. They lost to the Vikings 47-7, lost to the Colts 28-20, losing by 8 points to a team who went to the Super Bowl, then lost to the 49ers 28-13. So obviously there's a lot behind the scenes we don't know about coaching, but 3 games getting fired and not doing too bad in the first 3, honestly. So final standings for the NFL. Dallas Cowboys sitting atop. They were sitting games above the Giants, 5 of them to be exact. 12-2 the Cowboys on the year, 7-7 Giants, 5-9 Redskins, 2-12 Eagles. Then from the NFL Century Division, the Cleveland Browns win the Century. They were 10-4. The St. Louis Cardinals, no, not the baseball team, were 9-4. Then you had a pretty rough bottom half, 4-9 Saints and 2-11 Steelers. So we know the winners of each play each other in the playoffs, and it saw the Cleveland Browns beat the Cowboys 31-20. So the Browns get the job done. They advance to the NFL championship game. We'll save it, but first, got to look at the top half. The Baltimore Colts. I'm going to have to get used to saying Baltimore Colts instead of Indianapolis. 13-1, sitting atop the Coastal. Rams were 10-3-1. 49ers 7-6-1. And then the Falcons were 2-12. I should know, St. Louis Cardinals, New Orleans Saints, and Pittsburgh Steelers all had a tie. I kind of just blew by them at first, but a lot of ties back in the day. And then finally, the Minnesota Vikings win the NFL Central 8-6. Central was tight. They were 8-6. Bears were 7-7. Packers 6-7-1. So certainly not doing too well there as Vince Lombardi steps down. And then the Lions, only team with 2 ties. They were 4-8-2. So Baltimore Colts 13-1 against the 8-6 Vikings. Just a 10-point game, 24-14. They advance to the NFL championship game. Drew, tell everyone what happened in the AFL. Set the stage for their championship game, because there's a big tiebreaker.
Yeah, there really was, Jordan. But first, I'm going to touch on some of the stadium changes that occurred during the year. The expansion Cincinnati Bengals, they began to play in Nippert Stadium. Bears Stadium, home of the Denver Broncos, was renamed Mile High Stadium after the city took control of the venue.
A little weird that the Broncos were playing at Bears Stadium. That doesn't fit too well.
Yeah, it really doesn't. I mean, you'd figure the Chicago Bears would be playing there. But
right.
Yeah, and then the final change was the Houston Oilers moved from Rice Stadium to the glorious Astrodome. That's also where the Astros ended up playing for a few years. And next, then, Jordan, I got to talk about some of the standings, like you mentioned. We're going to start in the AFL Eastern Division. Remember, there's only 2 divisions. The New York Jets are on top. 11. They won 11-3. They won the AFL Eastern Division, and also the AFL East plays the AFL West in the championship game. Is what happens. And so to round out the AFL Eastern Division, Houston Oilers 7-7, Miami Dolphins 5-8-1, Boston Patriots 4-10, Buffalo Bills 1-12-1. Yikes! And then for the AFL West, we had a little bit of a situation going on here because the Oakland Raiders and the Kansas City Chiefs both atop the AFL West with 12-2 identical records. So they had to play a tiebreaker game in the Western Division playoff. Then is what happened. But then to round out the AFL West, the San Diego Chargers 9-5, Denver Broncos 5-9, Cincinnati Bengals 3-11. So then in the AFL Western Division playoff, the tiebreaker was the 12-2 Chiefs versus the 12-2 Raiders. And what happened, Jordan? 41-6 blowout in favor of the Oakland Raiders. So they move on to the AFL championship game. And this AFL championship game was a tight one. It was the Oakland Raiders at the New York Jets. They got the bye, and they won 27-23. So the New York Jets are moving on to the Super Bowl.
They were a little of an underdog because they were going against the Baltimore Colts, who absolutely destroyed the Cleveland Browns. Browns were 10-4. Keep in mind, Colts 13-1, 34-0. The Colts beat the Browns, and I mean, that is just absolutely wild going in to the Super Bowl. As for the Colts, they started out the year 5-0, Then they lost to the Browns 30-20 in the regular season. The Browns handed them their only loss of the year, and the Colts said, we're not losing again. And they destroyed them. The other big wins on the year for the Colts, they beat the Steelers 41-7, Bears 28-7, shut out the Giants 26-0, shut out the Cardinals 27-0, shut out the Falcons 44-0, beat the Packers 16-3. Drew, you got anything big for the Jets?
I mean, the Jets, they won. They beat the Boston Patriots 47-31. They beat them yet again 48-14. So they really had the Jets or the Patriots number this year. And then they beat the Dolphins in two big games, 35-17 and 31-7. So they finished 11-3, like I mentioned, to close out the year. And they played their home games at Shea Stadium. So, I mean, that's where the Mets used to play back in their heyday.
Yes, indeed it was. And I keep seeing Lambeau Field here for the Packers. Gotta love that, still in business. 50,000 people were at Lambeau Field when the Packers played the Colts. So that's that. And anything else, or are we on to the Super Bowl?
Let's go to Super Bowl III.
So this was the third AFL-NFL championship game, as we know, and it was the first to officially bear the trademark name, the Super Bowl. So there's a little fun fact, trivia statistic for you all. January 12th, 1969, coming into this game, Drew, my Colts were a massive favorite. Tell the world at home what this was all about.
Okay, this Baltimore Colts team, they were favored by 18 points. And the over-under for this game was also 40. So that is, I mean, if you're favored 18 points, that is insane. You better off win this game.
And Joe Namath, Jets quarterback, he said, doesn't matter. They're favored by 18. He had a guarantee. That's what the title of the video was. It said Super Bowl III, Jets vs. Colts, Joe Namath's guarantee. And Drew did a little research to figure out why exactly that was.
Yeah, so what happened was Joe Namath, he famously made an appearance 3 days before the Super Bowl at the Miami Touchdown Club, and he personally guaranteed his team's victory. So there was, before the Super Bowl week, there was a bunch of trash talk going on between the Colts and the Jets. And yeah, Joe Namath wasn't having it. He guaranteed his team was going to win. He didn't care about who was the favorite, blah, blah, blah. He was like, this Jets team, we're winning the Super Bowl.
We'll see. Did it happen? Did it not? I don't know. I'm sure plenty of people at home couldn't tell you the winner of Super Bowl III off the top of their head. And it was played at the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida. 75,389 people in attendance. This is fun. The cost of a 30-second commercial, just $55,000. Obviously, you're going to need to add a few more zeros to get that in today's day and age. But 41.66 million viewers had the Super Bowl on. And Drew, we turned the game on. Old school feel, obviously, in color. What do you think?
So yeah, you're right. When I turn the game on, I see those old funky looking microphones. The guy has a green screen that he's behind, like in front of, and it's so weird. I've never seen a Super Bowl broadcast from this old, so I did not know what to expect, and it was something else.
Kurt Gowdy, Al DeRogatis, and Kyle Rote were the announcers for this game. And you mentioned the green screen, right? I think it was so weird, especially when they were doing introductions. So the guy was on the screen talking. It was the two color guys, and they were sitting there, they were talking. Al DeRogatis wasn't even looking at the camera, by the way. I don't know where he was looking, but then they just had the players behind him running up one by one, getting introduced. And DeRogatis wasn't even talking about the players. Kyle did a good job. He was saying who's coming up as they're talking about him, but it was very, very weird. And their microphones had the tiniest little circle to talk into. They just looked so odd. And I appreciated about 10 minutes, about give or take, of introduction stuff. I thought it was nice, kind of set the stage, let us know what we're in for. Goalposts were still in the end zone, like in the very front of it. It didn't come into play like in our last game where the quarterback threw it off the goalpost and then got intercepted. But also, they had the starters, like graphics for the starters. It showed like 4 players right away for the Jets. Then it showed a few others. Very, very appreciated. I feel like this game, Drew, 1969, it had like some better graphics than some of the other games we watched. Like 91 World Series wasn't as good as this graphics-wise.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm so glad you mentioned that. That was something I want to mention as well. I think the 91 World Series was like inferior to this. Like it was like they had, I don't know, just the way like the way they showed it, like halftime stats, and they showed us stuff, and it was like an actual, like it seemed like an interactive kind of broadcast, And that 91 game was just something else for a broadcast. Oh boy.
Yeah, it certainly did not appeal to the fans, especially ones who were like us and just watch it for the first time. So, speaking of baseball, I wrote down the quarterback battle like it was two pitchers. I put Joe Namath from the Jets versus Earl Morrell from the Colts. And woof, do we have a thing or two to say about this Colts quarterback? And we got nothing good to say about him. But first, Jets get the ball. They receive, same sort of thing right out of the gate. We can tell they're doing some runs, they're getting screen passes, and that's basically what we're going to expect from them. They end up punting right away from their own 44, punt it down. Colts get it at their 27. They've got some good plays. Put big explosive plays early, but then towards the red zone, once they get there, they miss a few throws and then they miss a field goal. And these kickers certainly weren't the best.
No, it was kind of off game for the kickers, but I mean, the New York Jets kicker, he really stepped up at the end, which we'll talk about. He made some big kicks, but that Colts kicker, oh boy, not a good start.
No, not a good start to their quarterback or their kicker. And I believe the Jets kicker had like 165 or 168 points in the year. I remember seeing at one point. That's crazy. He certainly lived up to the hype in the regular season. Once again, we got a slow start. Jets miss a few big throws. They're forced to punt. Colts punt. They get the Jets back to their own 3-yard line. So this is pretty big here for the Jets as they're trying to move forward. They got to go 97 yards, but they fumble on a screen pass. And that's how the quarter ends. It was a very, very slow first quarter. Really nothing happened.
No, you're right, Jordan. It was slow for both teams, little to no offense getting going. I mean, when they did, they had some big explosive plays, like you mentioned, and just a lot of turnovers. It was just a sloppy first quarter.
And once we'll talk. Colts turnovers, they're coming up right away. First possession of the second quarter, Colts run not once but twice. And then they throw themselves an interception. So Jets get the ball at the 20 because that Colts, they were so close to getting themselves a touchdown. However, they decided to throw the ball. Jets intercept it in the end zone, so they get the ball after the touchback. And did you see their bench play? It was just one guy they showed using an oxygen mask.
I saw that. He was like inhaling, exhaling with it, trying to catch his breath or something. But that's something you'd never see in a game. I was so shocked.
Yeah, I did not. It really threw me off guard. I don't know if it was just going to be me, but yeah, I definitely noticed that. And commentary talked about it too. They were just mentioning it, like, yeah, he's getting some oxygen. He'll be back in there, like it was nothing. So times have changed for sure. And then Snell from the New York Jets gets himself a touchdown, 11 carries, 53 yards, gets the job done. New York Jets are on the board. Matt Snell, what do you got to say about him? He really had himself a big game, and this was the beginning of it.
Oh, Jordan, he's such a tough runner. He was really able to get some good yards after contact, and that really made a big difference. That really helped out Joe Namath, I think, because that Baltimore Colts defense, there's a reason they were favorites. They were tough. I mean, both coaches, they were sending blitzes right away. They're trying to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands for both teams, and by doing that, I mean that's why we saw those screen passes. We saw a lot of these runs and a lot of just like dink and dunk kind of passing offenses.
Dink and dunk. I like that. That's pretty good verbiage for it. Colts get the ball back. They're down 7 now. See if their offense can step up. They really can't. I mean, they get a decent little drive going, and then they miss themselves a big field goal. So Jets get the ball back, and then they miss a field goal. So already 3 missed field goals and 2 turnovers in this game, and we're not even at halftime. So Matty from the Colts has his longest run of the year, 58 yards. This was a huge run for this man. 58 yards, easily the biggest play we've seen all game. But then the Colts throw an interception. Like, come on, at this point, why are they even throwing the ball?
Yeah, Earl Morrell had some tough throws to say the least, but yeah, back to that run, Jordan, though. That 58-yard run. I mean, they even showed some replays on this. We had those for 1969. It was such beautiful blocking by the linemen. I mean, we saw a little bit of guard pulling action going on, a little sweep around the corner, and they executed some excellent blocks. Both guards did, and that really set them up for success this play.
And Jets get the ball back, right, from their own 1 yard line. So that's how close the Colts were once again to scoring. Two big chances, couldn't come up with either of them. Jets get themselves 3 and out. We're approaching halftime. Doesn't really say the time anywhere. We don't know for sure. But the Colts run a little trick play, and that's intercepted. 3 interceptions from Earl Morrell as we have hit halftime. Jets up 7-0. Anything else you want to say about this first half?
No, I mean, the 3 interceptions just say it all for Earl Morrell. What a tough first half. I mean, we saw him as kind of he came in as the savior in Super Bowl 7 we saw too. I mean, this guy, I mean, he was the quarterback too, and just seeing him come into games and stuff, and because this was Johnny Unitas's team during most of the year, and then he got hurt too, didn't he?
And he sure did. And we're going to talk all about them as we start the second half. Colts get the ball after the kick return. They're getting ready. They fumble on the first play. Are you kidding me? You'd think we're making this up. Colt fans were not happy about this one. He fumbles. It was a loud crowd as well. I mean, at parts, I think it was mic'd up a little better than some of the other things we watched. You could definitely hear the crowd.
Yeah, you certainly could, and it was in a beautiful stadium in Miami. I thought that was a great venue as well.
Pretty nice day as well. I think it was like 80 degrees or something, not raining at all. And after this fumble, Johnny Unitas begins to warm up. You see him on the outside. They say he's been out with a shoulder injury. I don't know how long, don't know how many games he played, but he is warming up on the sideline. Jets get themselves ball. They get a really good drive. They're down to about 15-yard line or so. Then a sack. Joe Namath goes down. Colts keep them pushed back, force a field goal. So it's 10-0 Jets at this point in the game. They're up 2 scores halfway through the third quarter. Colts ball, and they show a graphic that said 3rd and 11. This was appreciated. First time we've seen one of these all night, but it didn't matter. 3 and out. Colts can't do a single thing. In my next note, but these refs are very animated. What did you think of these guys on the missed field goals, especially? Good Lord.
Oh my goodness, they were so aggressive with their calls. It was like some MLB strikeout looking calls. It was like incomplete, and then my favorite was the missed field goals. They would they would just move both their hands to like what side it missed and do it so aggressively. Like it looked like they were trying to hurt themselves or like pull a muscle or something.
They probably did, and I felt bad for the poor kickers. Like, obviously, you can tell it's missed, and then you got this referee in front of you basically jumping to the side, telling you missed this way. These guys were crazy, and on penalties, too. One of them was so aggressive. Like, there was a delay of game, and he's walking, and all of a sudden you just see, boom, just like slams his hands together and then points. These guys were insane. So then, after that, they've got a picture, or not a picture, they're showing a car, and the announcers, Kurt Gowdy, says the Super Bowl MVP wins this car. I'm not a big car guy, but holy cow, if I won the MVP and got that, I would be happy. Joe Namath, we'll talk about him, maybe with the MVP, wink, wink. He tied the record, most completions in a Super Bowl. So on this drive, he tied the record, and then another field goal. So the Jets kind of having to settle for field goals down the stretch. I mean, that's 2 more here, and the crowd did not like this field goal. They begin to boo, and I think that kind of lighted a fire under this Colts team. They bring Johnny Unitas into the game. Everything's going to change. Nope. 3 and out for Johnny Unitas. But Drew, he got going after this drive. It was just a bad start.
Yeah, he really did, Jordan. He actually started moving the ball, which was something we didn't see from this Colts team at all. I mean, he finished 11 for 24 with 110 yards. So, I mean, he actually got some offense compared to, I guess I'll read some of Earl Morrell's stats because he's out of the game now. 6 for 17, 71 yards, 3 interceptions, no touchdowns, and a 9.3 QBR. Yikes.
I was gonna ask what that was because I figured it was going to be rough. But yeah, what did you say? 24 passes thrown by Unitas?
Yeah, 24 compared to Morrell's 17.
He threw 24 passes in like a barely a quarter and a half. I mean, we're talking a quarter in a few minutes, but once he got going, he was doing very well. And now Jets ball, they announced Joe Namath has a strained right thumb. So that's pretty big moving forward in this game for the first time of the game. They showed a clock counting down. I'm pretty sure there was like 2 minutes or something like that. Jets fumble, but they said he was down. So Jets get away with one here. Joe Namath to Sauer, who a huge pass here. That man had 9 receptions for 147 yards at this point in the game. Quarter ends. Now, the quarter ends. They say Joe Namath has only been touched twice the entire game. So huge credit to the O-line and credit to the D-line of the Jets. Colts didn't have a single first down this quarter. That third quarter, about as one-sided as you can get.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, they still couldn't get anything going offensively for the Colts. And I just with Unitas and Morrell, I mean, now with Morrell out, I mean, that's certainly a plus because when Morrell had the ball, I mean, because the Jets were blitzing him and he would force it. I mean, he was a gunslinger. He was just throwing it and he was just kind of hoping the receiver caught the ball was basically what was happening.
They weren't good. Yeah, not good passes at all. And he just did not look like a Super Bowl offense. Finally, it begins to pick up. But fourth quarter, we're still Jets drive. They're moving along with the ball. Can't convert. But this field goal, my goodness, about the most awkward angles you could get. That was a far left hash. He made it. So very good job for the Jets kicker. It is 16-0 now. Remember, Colts were favored to win by 18 points. And they mentioned that here, and they say on commentary, this is one of the greatest upsets in sports history. Can they turn it around? Colts ball, one of their best drives. They're moving very, very well. And it's intercepted. Johnny Unitas comes in, 3 and out, throws an interception. If you're a Colts fan, that's just got to suck all the air right out of you. How deflating.
Yeah, that was a really big moment in this game. I mean, when the Jets get their fourth pick, like you just said, and I mean, there's little to no life left in that Colts team, and being such a favorite. I mean, Don Shula, their head coach, said it best. I mean, if we don't get a ring this year, all of our success that we had in the regular season goes down the drain. Doesn't matter.
I heard that, and that's so true. Why are you working? Why are you putting all this work in the regular season only to lose in basically the one game that matters all year? So that's certainly disappointing for Shula, but it's not over yet. Jets have the ball. They're moving down. Lengthy drive for them. A missed field goal. So I don't know if we've missed 4 or 5 field goals this game. It is a lot. And our video, did you see this? It like cut out because all of a sudden Colts had the ball at like the Jets 20. So I don't know what happened here, but we could tell Colts are moving. They're getting a good old drive here. And I don't know why. Right now, there's 16-0 at this point in the game. Maybe 5 or so minutes left. This late hit by the Jets, what was the dude thinking? There had to be some bad blood or something. Something had to be said.
Yeah, something happened. My favorite is when the ref threw the flag so aggressively and hit the guy. He thought he threw it. That was the best part, in my opinion. But yeah, it was an obvious late hit call. I mean, I'm glad they called it some safety, for the safety rules. But yeah, really a poor decision by the Jets.
It certainly wasn't. It didn't matter at all. There was no point in that at all. But Colts ball, still, they're moving towards. Now they're at about the 2-yard line after they got a first down. It literally took this Colts team 4 tries to get a 1-yard rushing touchdown. That's ridiculous. But Colts fans, you're on the board. 16-7 now. There's 3 minutes, 19 seconds remaining. They're down 9 points. And they recover the onside kick. Very, very good by the Colts. We don't see many onsides recovered nowadays. Colts are moving. 4th down and 5 from the Jets 19. What are you doing? You kicking or are you going for it?
I think they made the right decision of going for it because I don't know if they didn't know if their offense was going to get, another good shot from the Jets 19. So, I mean, I was fine with them going for it.
Very true. I probably would have kicked it and just taken the points and then tried an onside again. Like, no matter what, you got an onside, but I don't know. Not a bad idea to go for it. Can't convert. Snell ended up reaching 100 rushing yards for the Jets. Gets a first down. In my notes, I put that seals it. Jets take 2 delay game penalties. So instead of snapping with 1 second to go, they take the penalty, which makes no sense at all. I don't know. Do you know any reason why they're doing this?
Well, with the Colts calling the timeout?
They called the timeout after those 2 times. Like the Jets, they had the first down. Then they took a delay a game, which stopped the clock. They rushed. They took a delay a game again. And then after that, the Colts call timeout on 4th down, and there's 15 seconds left. I was so confused by all of this.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe there's a change of heart by the, like, if they were going to give up or not. And then they're like, hey, let's actually try this. And they call timeout. I don't, with 15 seconds, it just doesn't, it baffles me.
And down 9, 15 seconds left. You use your last time out there instead of on like the first play. I don't know. 8 seconds left after the punt. So the Colts have 8 seconds to get 9 points. Tell me that's not impossible. Incomplete pass. Then they get a completion to about midfield. That ends the game. So the Jets coach, on the very last year of his contract, he ends up getting the win. Weeb Eubank gets the job done for this Jets team as they win themselves a Super Bowl. Jets, $15,000 apiece for winning this game, $7,500 apiece for the Colts, and Drew, rightfully so, Joe Namath, the MVP of the Super Bowl.
Oh, Jordan, I mean, Joe Namath was a big part of this team. I mean, he had the guarantee, Jordan, but the guy didn't throw a touchdown. I think, hear me out, I think Matt Snell got snubbed. I really do. I think, what do you think?
I can kind of agree, but I mean, I also think for Namath, first of all, to guarantee a win when you're down 18 points, when they say, then he does it all with a strained right thumb. I mean, I think that takes some balls.
I mean, I do agree. I think he was certainly the heart and soul of this team, but I think Matt Snell, because he didn't get the Super Bowl MVP, he held a little bit of a grudge, Jordan. I got another little tidbit here because
oh boy,
Matt Snell, listen to this. He carried a 30-plus year grudge, and he vowed to skip their ring ceremony. And this is an article from 2015. Listen to this, Jordan. Yeah, Matt Snell, he lives still really close to the stadium. He lived only 10 miles from the stadium. But they've been trying to contact him, and he said, no, not going. Nope. And a lot of people feel he deserved a Super Bowl MVP, but nobody knows why he's holding this grudge. Nobody knows what this grudge is. And there are some theories. One of them is because he didn't win the Super Bowl MVP, that there's a little bit of bad blood there. Another one is that former owner Leon Hess, he had a promise to give Snell a job in his oil company, and he didn't get that job. And then another one is that Snell was a season ticket holder into the mid-1980s, but then when the Jets had moved to Giant Stadium, 4 of his season tickets were raised, and word had it that he called the ticket office asking for a 10 to 20% reduction, and the answer he got was no, so he surrendered his tickets. So nobody knows the real story, and there's a lot of hard feelings on his side. The players, his teammates, don't even know why. So it's such a weird situation there. And yeah, he didn't win the MVP.
It's a little pettiness, first of all, by the guy to hold it for that long, but definitely some jealousy as well. I don't know. Did he have some bad blood with Joe Namath behind the scenes or something we don't know about? Because I don't know why you're holding the grudge that long. But at the end of the day, doesn't win the MVP. Joe Namath gets it, and now it's time. Last thing, we got just our regular season awards for the NFL. Going back to my NFL, Colts win 2 of the 4 awards. And if you just watched the Super Bowl and didn't watch anything in the regular season, it'll blow your mind that Earl Morrell is the most valuable player. So he wins the MVP of the NFL. You want to talk about a guy who had a great regular season, but a terrible Super Bowl. Feel bad for the guy, but that's on him. Don Shula, coach of the year. We've talked about him before. He was the coach of the Baltimore Colts. Earl McCouch from Detroit, offensive rookie of the year as a wide receiver. And Claude Humphrey, the defensive end from Atlanta, wins defensive rookie of the year. And I didn't think there was awards for the AFL, but Drew, you looked them up, and there indeed are.
I found some, Jordan. AFL coach of the year Weeb Eubank, we mentioned him already. AFL Player of the Year, Joe Namath. I mean, I can't argue with that. AFL Rookie of the Year, Paul Robinson of the Cincinnati Bengals, and AFL Defensive Rookie of the Year, Dick Anderson of Miami Dolphins. I don't have offensive or defensive player of the years though, so that's kind of what they don't have. But we do have the player of the year, we do have the coach of the year, and we got the rookies of the year. So
I don't know if they didn't have those at the time because in this it doesn't say anything for the NFL either. So potentially that's not something they did. They just awarded rookies instead. But I don't know. That's basically it though. Super Bowl III in the books. Jets get the win 16-7. That's it. Anything else to say about this Super Bowl game?
no, I mean pretty good Super Bowl, I'll say. I mean,
For the time.
for the time, yeah. I mean, first Super Bowl ever, technically, with like it being called that, but a lot of turnovers, and really just like a low scoring battle. So not bad at all. Kickers match a little bit for the Jets, but yeah, fairly good game.
Kickers missed more field goals than they made field goals, and the Colts had they had 3 more points than they did turnovers. So that's not good at all. I mean, you're not going to win a Super Bowl like that, but for the time, like we said, this was just such a big game. When you're favored to win by 18 points and you actually lose by 9, that doesn't sit well at all. Don Shula was not happy about it. And that's Super Bowl III next week. Summer Sports Spectacular, Episode 9, the second to final episode, 1992. College football, we're going back. So that's like almost 30 years ahead of this. But Alabama and Miami, 2 absolute powerhouses. That should be a fun one next week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Love some good 90s college football. Hopefully we have a scoreboard. That's my one thing. Maybe we'll see some maybe better graphics and stuff. We'll see.
I think we'll see some pretty good graphics. Not sure about the scoreboard, but we'll have to see. So watch that game, guys. Join along with us. Don't forget to listen. Episode 19, if you haven't, our longest and maybe best episode to date, our MLB mid-season special. Such good stuff there. And hopefully by this time, the Milwaukee Bucks are the NBA champions. Oh boy, we can only hope, but can't confirm anything until next week, episode 20. Hopefully it's our Bucks celebration. And if not, it might be the funeral of this podcast because we might ever speak again if the Bucks lost in the championship. Thank you all for listening to episode 8 of Jordan and Drew's Summer Sports Spectacular, the perfect podcast for you.